Hello, so today we're going to be going over patch 14.3. This is the upcoming patch for TFT set 14 that's going to happen on this Wednesday. So this video is going to be me reacting to the changes and kind of giving my opinion and how I think that's going to shape up or adjust certain comps. There's lots of stuff that I think we're all waiting to see, you know, some nerfs to some really broken units and comps. So I'm expecting this patch to be really cool and really fun and shake up a lot of the comps and make set 14 a little bit more enjoyable if you haven't been enjoying it already. Before we do any of that, two things. Most important, make sure to like and subscribe to Mortdog's YouTube channel. So this is where I am taking these slides from. And he does his own content as well as lots of things like either AMAs, as you can see here, and he also does like set rundowns as well as the patch notes. So if you want to see his take and his explanation as a dev for Riot, please make sure to like and subscribe to support him just like I do. Also, if you want to support me, I do daily TFT guides, but when it's a patch week or when there's patch notes, I also do patch notes reviews. If you want to be up to date with set 14 as well as get much information on guides and how to play certain comps, how to play different play styles of the game, please make sure to like and subscribe because it will help you out in your set 14 experience. Now, let's go through it. So usually when we start, there's gonna be some system changes. I'm reacting to these, but I have heard about a lot of the changes ahead of time because they were advertised. So some of these are a little bit spoilers, so I won't have like the you know, like YouTube reaction for them. But in general, they're adding some new hacks to the game. One that I heard about is Tome of Traits carousel. This to me is very degenerate and I don't really like it, but I think the way they're implementing it is fine, so I actually think it'll be okay. The odds of Tome of Traits occurring as a carousel option is very small, so I'm actually on board with it. I'm like, okay, you know what, if it's like a 1 in like 20 game occurrence or a 1 in like, you know, that level of occurrence, it's a lot better. Also, they made new rules to the Tome of Traits. So if you don't know what a Tome of Traits is, because I think they took it out for the last couple of sets, basically what it is that it's like an item, like kind of like a component anvil. When you pop it, it gives you 4 tomes. In the past, there used to be a very specific style that you would have to use in order to like guarantee certain emblems or like give you better odds of emblems. It was like, you know, if you have 6 traits in, then one of them is tailored, which means it's like one of the 6 traits that you have activated or like, you know, on your board, whether active or not active. And then 8 was like 2, and then 9 plus was 3, and they just removed that, I think, and they're just making a 25% chance of any trait appearing, because we have 4 options, so each of them is completely random. I think that's a little bit better. I think it's a little bit more beginner player friendly, which I think is nice. So if you are an experienced player that knew about all like the hidden rules and tech around it, I think they've removed that, so just be aware of it. So like, you know, if you look and you're like, oh, my emblems aren't tailored, what is this? Bad low roll. It's like, no, they're just making it RNG, which I think also helps the fact that like it's not as crazy, because I think if you can tailor it, a lot of times the Tome of Traits is scary when people hit those crazy vertical traits, and that's why, you know, it is what it is. They're also adding 2-star carousel, too many units on carousel. I don't know which this one is in entirely. Then all 3 cost, all 4 cost carousels. I think all of these are okay. As of right now, all of the like hacked carousels haven't occurred to a point where it makes me like annoyed. I know the only one that I really didn't like was the artifact one, and that one occurred so infrequently so far in the games that I'm playing that I'm actually on board. Like, I'm okay with all of these. And then they removed the spat pan carousel, I think because of the Tome of Traits one. And then there's a deja vu PvE rounds. I'm not sure exactly what that is, but I'm excited to see what it ends up being when I play the game. So a little bit of excitement for me. Let's go to next slide. I'm trying my best. My internet's a bit slow. So, okay, 2 of 2. More hacks. So these are hacked orbs. Bag of gold consumable. Using a champion gain 4 gold. Increases by 1. Salvager. Used to remove all their items and break them down. Ooh, that's really cool. Implant. Permanently gains 350 HP and 20% size. Speed. Okay, so they're giving like items that kind of power up the units. I think these ones are interesting. We'll see how it works out. I'm sure some of them will have broken interactions. Like all these ones that give HP or attack speed and stuff are usually really good on like melee champions or backline champions that stack and need starting at AS. Starter kits. Stage 1 only. I really don't like this. This is the only one I don't like, right? Nesting doll seems interesting. The only one I don't like is starter kits from reading these off rip. All of these other ones I think are fine. You can try and find a way to play around them. Starter kit I really don't like because if there's a particular comp that you want to like angle towards, like I feel like this is like really powerful. And I think the problem is like if somebody gets a starter kit where their items work out with their starter kit, they're in a much better spot than if you don't get the starter kit. You get what I'm trying to say? But we'll see how it plays out. I might be wrong about that. It might be okay because you need to have a 1, 2, and a 3 cost with a shared trait. So there might be only a certain subset of starter kits, which usually lean towards more flexible boards. Like if you think like Anima, for example, and stuff like that. So like maybe it's okay. We'll see. They say Cypher excluded, so that's the big one that's scary. So that's a good thing. And then opening encounters. That's fine. The splitting, whatever. Group investing. Sure. That's fine. These seem like fun. I think these are good. I think these look like fun, right? None of these seem super crazy. The only one I think is reroll subscription, but this is an opening encounter. So if you see reroll subscription, you kind of know that you have to either angle reroll or like that's something that's happening in the game. So like it's a little bit better if it's an opening encounter rather than like middle of the game, because you can adjust your strategy at the start. So I think these are fine as opening encounters. Like I said, the only one that I'm a little bit cautioned about is starter kits, which isn't even that big of a deal if I'm being completely honest. I need to go to next slide. Next slide. Okay, traits. Let's go through the trait changes. So amp. Amp I already think is really strong as it is currently. So how do I phrase it? So in this patch, I'm expecting to see Zeri nerfs, right? I think we all are expecting to see some level of the Exotech line with Hollowbow Zeri getting adjusted. Now, I'm sure they're not going to nerf Zeri. I think they're just going to nerf Hollowbow because I think Hollowbow is the problem. So that makes sense, right? Now, the problem is there's a lot of comps that are like not viable because they're bad into Zeri. And if you just remove the amount of Zeri players, I feel like they're going to be extremely strong. One such comp is Amp. Now, Amp, if you're not really dialed in to like how things are playing out, if you're not like watching a lot of TFT or like researching it, like I research for the sake of making these videos a little bit more informed. So like I'm really like knee deep in this shit. Amp is getting really popular in like China and like a lot of other regions, not necessarily NA, because there's a lot of Jin Nafiri reroll, which I already thought was really strong, and there's a lot of people that are starting to play it more frequently. People are getting better at playing it, but also it caps really high if you get to 5 amp. Like if you get all the amp units in and you get to cap around Samira. If you get to cap around Samira with those comps, even like any amp with Samira and not Nafiri reroll, like both of those cap very high around Samira. So me seeing like a 5 amp change as well as like increased HP, it feels like these buffs might make the comp really good. Like I think starting next patch, it's going to be extremely strong, because the biggest problem with that comp was that it lost to Zeri at almost every stage of the game, and it was just really bad. So like Nitro amp, like amp, just vertical amp might be a lot better. Because I think Samira is really strong. It's just getting to Samira, which was the problem. And if you remove one of the biggest things against the comp, it might become a little bit more strong. Hopefully that makes sense. Cypher, I think Cypher is fine where it is. It's like, it doesn't seem too crazy, but it doesn't seem too ridiculous, like too bad either. It looks like they're just buffing the Giga cash out ones, right? So this is like if you're playing 5 Cypher, or if you have like an early 4 or 5 Cypher, to make it to like those really big cash outs. I think this is fine. I think one of the biggest problem with Cypher is that there's like a sweet spot of like 290 that's really good, and then somewhere in the 400 range that's really good, and then around those little markers, a lot of the cash outs are really shit. So I think that this just helps you to stabilize around playing like the vertical Cypher board, where you're just playing like Cypher units into your late game, and that's why they're giving you them like a huge buff. So like if you have to play 5 Cypher, which is like a little bit more of a unique board that you usually only play if you have like a Giga Cypher cash out, where it forces you to play those units. So I think it's fine. I don't think this is super crazy, even though I think Cypher is really strong. I think this just helps out to like make those high-end cases a little bit easier to convert, which I think at that point is like more helping like beginner players, which I think is nice. Dynamo, it's a really good splash trait, so now they're just removing, or not removing, they're making it a little bit worse as 2. That's fine. Golden Ox, this is like a little bit weird. I'm not a big Golden Ox believer, but I understand that it's really strong. I'm not sure what they're going to do with the actual Golden Ox units, so we're going to see how that goes. Right now, Golden Ox feels almost like Conqueror in last set, if you played Conqueror last set. If you haven't played, I'll try and explain it. It's basically like if you have a really good opener for it, and you have an emblem, if you can tempo and you can hit 6 Golden Ox on stage 4, you can win the game very easily because you just get up so many resources and so many items. If you low roll, or if you're stuck on level 8, or if you're stuck at 4 Golden Ox, it's basically useless a lot of the time, and you can often just like go very 8th, right? Like you just like you're strong, then you low roll on stage 4, you lose every single round, and all of a sudden you're like fighting for your life out there. Now they are removing Zeri, or not removing Zeri. There are unless they're completely incompetent. I haven't seen it yet, but I'm predicting that they're gonna fix the Zeri comp to not be as crazy as it was, right? So we can assume that's coming in a later slide. If Zeri is less oppressive against some of these boards, it could still make it okay. But at the same time, this is fine because it's just doing the damage amp, which is the base damage amp by 5%. So I think this is just to make it a little bit. I feel like it makes it a little bit more 1st or 8th risky. So I can understand the changes, I can understand the nerf, but it really comes down to if they nerf or deal with the Golden Ox units in particular, because then I'm going to be like, okay, that seems like a little bit weird because I'm already reluctant to play it, if that makes sense. Street Demon, they're increasing the base stats on 7. I think that's great. It needs like a little bit of extra work because the board is so expensive if you're trying to high cap with it. So I think this makes it a little bit more consistent at just having something to like help your board stabilize a little bit. So I think that's great. Anima Squad, I already think Anima Squad is pretty strong right now. I've played a lot of Anima Squad, and it's like my go-to if I'm trying to rank up and just have an easy game. Because you can hit the units pretty reliably, and you can stabilize pretty hard on level 8. The biggest problem is your mid game with Anima Squad a lot of the time, right? Early game, you're usually pretty strong because you have the extra components or the extra item thing doing damage. Mid game, it's a little bit hard to convert, especially if you don't hit like 5 or 7 early and you don't have an emblem. But then later on, it's a little bit awkward. Now, Anima Squad counts the total star level at the start of combat instead of surviving members, which actually is a huge buff in the mid game because you just get so much more damage and so much more power in your mid game because of that. Because in your mid game, that's usually where like your units are dying. It makes it a lot more stable. Because before it would be like, you know, if the fight lasted long enough, you'd lose like oomph and it would kind of like peter out towards the end. And they also rebalance the scaling, which just makes it that like 2 stars are better. Like higher star levels are a little bit better. That also is relatively good because if you're committing to playing Anima Squad and you have a lot of upgrades, this works to be a really good tempo option in my opinion. So buffing it in this way, I think will make Anima Squad one of the more popular lines in the upcoming patch. I think that if you have a Anima opener where you have upgraded units like a Silas 2, Seraphine 2, you know, Alawi 2, something like that as like an opener that you can transition into your mid game, you're actually going to be a lot stronger. And it was already like decently like okay performing, but we'll see how the cap is because if Aurora, which I think is a unit that probably needs a nerf, gets nerfed too much, then it might be hard to cap the board. It might just be like a tempo and bleed out kind of comp, which I think is not usually the popular choice, not usually the one that people like. All right, lots of changes. We're going through these very slowly. Traits 2. Exotech. So let's see. We're going to see some stuff with Hollow Bow for sure. Cyber Coil, I think this one's the one that's like the worst. It's really only good with like an emblem on certain units that can really exploit it. So they're just buffing the armor and MR, which I think is good. Just make it more of a generic tank item. I think that's fine. So that's good. Flux Capacitor. So Flux Capacitor used to be really broken. This is the yellow one that's like really good on Zeri traditionally, or it's like the go-to Zeri item. They're nerfing the percentage HP damage. I think this makes sense. Basically, this would melt most front lines because of the HP damage that it would do, and it would proc insanely fast with Zeri. As compensation, they're buffing the AS and they're buffing the AD. I think that the Zeri line with Flux Capacitor will still be okay. One thing that's really important is that we look at Exotech, they're not touching the HP gains that you get on Exotech. So I still think that 7 Exo is actually going to be really strong and really reliable as an option. It just won't be as oppressive where like 4 people in the lobby are going to be playing towards it. even though they're nerfing Flux Capacitor, I still think that Flux Capacitor on Zeri will be a viable option to play around Exotech, or even like a Vex version with Exotech will still be really strong, because they're not nerfing the HP, and they're not nerfing any of the crazy items. So like the Vex Exotech lines actually become a lot more stable and a lot more reliable, especially if there's not a bunch of Zeri players hard forcing it for no reason. Now, Hollow Bow, they're increasing the base AP. That makes sense. I think they want it to be more of a Varus item, or something you play towards Varus with. Crit gained after each cast, it says 40 to 60, but right now it's at 60, so I think this is reversed. It's going to be nerfed from 60 to 40 if I'm not mistaken. And this is the big one. Now, I don't know if this is an actual bug, but I heard about this and I thought it was like a bug. Not to say that it's like bug abusing if you played Zeri Hollow Bow, because when it's like a main vertical trait like this, and it is what it is, like everybody kind of has to play it. But what would happen is Zeri would stack the crit chance. So basically with Hollow Bow, you would like increase crit chance. If your crit chance is 100%, then your crit chance gets converted into crit damage, right? So what would happen is, because Zeri would attack so fast, there's like a Hollow Bow refresh, like I think it's like 5 seconds, where you would get crit chance. And what would happen with Zeri is that when she would ramp up her Gwinsu towards the end of the fight, she would just ramp it up to a point where then she's just deleting units. And the reason she would delete the units is because herself, as well as all her clones, would crit, and the Hollow Bow would stack so much crit chance because she's attacking so fast, and she would keep casting and proccing it, that you would get like above 100% crit chance, and then you would get like massive crit strike damage, which would just like massively increase the amount of damage that she's doing. That's why like Zeri 1-star with Hollow Bow was super stable. That's why a lot of the other stuff was super stable. It wasn't like necessarily like AS or like other interactions. It was mostly like 90% of the reason that Zeri was so broken last patch was because of this interaction, and now they're removing it, that the crit chance can no longer stack on itself. So if you have multiple Hollow Bows, they can work. That's like with that particular augment where it gives you extra copies of the units, extra copies of the items. But this removes the big part about the Zeri being an issue. Now, I still think Zeri will be good with Flux Capacitor. I don't think she'll be good with Hollow Bow anymore, because I think just in general won't work as well. So now it's going to be like Gwinsu Flux Capacitor, and I think that will still be playable, and it might still be really strong, because like I said, they didn't nerf the Exotech HP, but this isn't a hard force Zeri every single game, tee-hee, game is broken, everybody let's complain type of situation. I didn't even think it was that bad, because there were other comps that you can win with besides Zeri, but this takes a huge, like, it's like the floodgates are open now, right? There's so many other comps that just lost to Zeri for free that can be a lot easier. Like melee carry comps are a lot better now, because like it was just so bad with the clones. Just how they retargeted was just horrible. If you had anybody that dove the backline, they just died instantly. Like lots of front to vertical, front to back comps have a lot more stability, because if there's not that many Zeri players that are just ramping up and winning for free, you have a chance to play a comp that can ramp up and win. So this is really fun. Let's see how it goes, but definitely, you know, Hollow Bow Zeri is not a thing anymore, and I don't think it was meant to be a thing, but you know, it is what it is. Now let's go through champs. Alistar buff is crazy. I think it's a huge change. So this is what I was saying with the Golden Ox, right? I think Golden Ox, this is like a huge buff to like Golden Ox boards, because you play Alistar for so long. Alistar is such a strong early game unit. If you're not already on the Alistar hype train, if you see an Alistar early game, you have like an Alistar 2, it is so good to tempo, because this flat damage reduction, increasing it is actually massive. So I think this is like huge. I didn't think Alistar needed a buff. I think that's huge, because Alistar is one of like the best early game units in my opinion. Mundo on the other hand, a little bit not so much, but this is cool. Just more healing, more AD, that's cool. More spell. I don't think it's gonna be like a Mundo reroll line of any sort, but these are pretty good numbers just to make him a little bit more stable at what he does, which is nice. Kog'Maw, increasing spell damage, AD, that's fine. I think Kog'Maw reroll is a little bit bait, but we'll see how it plays out. I don't think it's that big of a deal. Morgana, these look like massive changes, right? Am I crazy? So one thing I was talking about before is that Morgana reroll, like I made a video talking about like Morgana from last set to Morgana from this set, and how last set Morgana reroll is really strong because of how much damage she did, and now Morgana this set kind of does nothing compared to last set. Look at these numbers. Morgana 1, that's like almost double, right? It's like a 40%, it's like an 80% increase or something. 220, like what? Like it's 180 increase on 220, something like that, right? Then you have this one that's like a 270 increase. It's like almost double, right? Like if we round it, it's like almost double the damage on everything and increased spell duration. Is this a nerf or a buff? 22, 35 DPS, damage per second. Increasing the DPS. I don't know exactly how it works, but just this seems insane. Morgana reroll might actually be a thing. Like, it might. I don't know for sure, but it's something that I would be curious to try. Like, I'd look in the stats for sure to see if Morgana 3 is performing better. This is massive. It's like double the damage, right? Double the damage, AoE hitting multiple units, like ticking down. Like, that seems like a lot. Like, she's probably going to be a much more reliable AP holder. The good thing about Morgana is that she's a blue buff holder. So you can actually play Divinicorp into Vex really easily because now Morgana can be a really good item holder. Like, there wasn't really a good blue buff holder besides like LeBlanc, and LeBlanc wasn't even that good. So this is actually really good for like Vex lines in particular as well, because you have an item holder that you can worry about later to like fix up your items afterwards. Zyra has been known to be shit this set. I don't even know why. I thought she was okay, but this is pretty cool. It might make Techie a little bit better. It's like a 10% buff all across the board, right? I don't think it's that crazy. And then the secondary damage, I think it hits multiple units, so it's actually pretty good. Just 10% buff. We'll see. I don't think Techie reroll is that good, but it's pretty okay. Oh, I skipped a slide. It's a small slide. Hold on. There we go. Poppy mana increase. This is really good. It means that like her casting mana is 5 less, so she can get a couple casts off a little bit earlier. That's cool. And then Shaco is just like mentioning hyper roll. That's fine. I don't think this really drastically changes things. I still think Poppy's a little bit meh, but I think that she has to be meh because of the cap with Cyber Boss that sometimes can be like crazy. 2 costs. So Jhin getting a mana nerf, so that's really strong. And the spell bounce getting less AD. I think this is fine. Jhin is really strong and a really good item holder. He's also a utility unit. He does sundering, so he's really good on a lot of boards, and I felt like he just did way too much damage and was really good as an item holder in mid game. So I think that he needed a nerf for sure. This starting mana nerf is actually pretty big because it means that you'll get the sunder effect off a lot late, like not a lot later, but basically 2 autos later because you're 10 mana nerf. So that's pretty good, right? That's a good way of dealing with him being a little bit oppressive. So I actually like these changes. Next, let's go to Twisted Fate. So Twisted Fate, he's gaining less AP per auto, but they're increasing his base spell damage by around 10%. And then the special card damage. Okay, that's fine. And then 7 Syndicate now throws a red and blue card instead of all 3. Okay, this is just a 7 Syndicate thing. That's fine. This nerf doesn't really matter too much. I'm looking at these special card damages. It's also around like, what is that? Like, it's like a little bit less than 10%. It's like a little bit less than 10%. It's like, yeah, I mean, it doesn't seem like massive changes. This actually seems like a big nerf though, right? You're gaining like 25% less AP per auto. Like, I feel like the point of Twisted Fate was that you would ramp up and then one-shot the units. I actually think this is an overall nerf. I can't tell if this compensates well enough for the nerf to the AP. That's why I'm a bit confused. I actually didn't think Twisted Fate needed any changes. I thought he was fine the way he was. So, like, we'll see how it plays out. Maybe, like, I don't know. I would, like, if anything, I would just go with the buffs. I think he was one of the weaker options as a 2-cost reroll. He was just very consistent. Vayne, mana nerfs, that's huge. Yeah, a little bit overtuned, a little bit strong. I don't think it's going to hurt Vayne reroll that much, but it's just going to make it a little bit less consistent in doing damage. Veigar, I don't think needed a nerf. I think Veigar is specifically really good with, like, the Cyber Boss's augment, right? Like, the one that just gives you the cash out to the Kobuko. But I think it's really hard to play this unit in a meaningful way. Because, like, a lot of times when you're playing reroll, you want to play reroll when other people are playing reroll. But the big part about Veigar's kit that makes him really strong is when you play him into non-reroll comps. So, like, a lot of times, he would have struggles against the other rerolls. It would just be a bad matchup. And then you would have struggles against the people tempoing because you just don't have enough levels in there. And then you also have to, like, hit him early enough to, like, hit all your other units. So it was, like, very situational. So the nerfs, I don't know, but maybe I just don't have enough experience because, of course, like, you know, I don't think I had a spot where I played No, I did play one Viger game. Yeah, I played one at least. But I don't have enough experience. It's really early in the set for me to know exactly. But I think that line needs like a little bit of like more depth. You know what I mean? Like understanding to it. 3-cost champions. So they're making the hat bonus armor. That's fine. So they're making him a little bit better with like the hat. If you see now, a lot of Twisted Fate reroll now rolls on level 7 with the idea of getting Braum 3 because of how much stronger Braum 3 is. So this actually works to be really strong with the Twisted Fate line. We'll talk about Gragas first. I've been going left to right. Gragas, mana buff, that's pretty good. I think that's nice. It helps him out. It might also help Chugbug to be a little bit stronger. Jarvan, this is like a what? 20%? Around 20%? Like a little under 20%? A little bit more? Maybe 20% nerf? This unit was broken. This is just the damage he does, though. I still think this unit's gonna be tanky as shit. So, like, I don't know if it changes things that much. But this guy needed a nerf for sure. Rengar, I don't know. Rengar was just really bad into Zeri. So I think this comp is really strong and really high cap if you hit everything. They're nerfing the base HP, but they also buff 7 Street Demon. If you don't know, the main way that you want to play Rengar now is with 7 Street. It's a lot better. It just gives you a lot more opportunity to cap your board, and it gives you a lot more sustain and ability to like cap your front line, and you don't really care about the Executioner because it's so hard to hit 5 Executioner anyways that like for majority of your game, having angling towards 7 Street Demon is often better just because like by the time you hit 5 Executioner, you would have saved so much more HP playing a stronger board leading up to that, if that makes sense. So 7 Street is usually a little bit better. So with the Street Demon buffs, I don't think this HP nerf is that crazy. It's more just like a little of adjustment. However, if you're playing strictly Executioner Rengar, I think you're going to feel this a lot more, if that makes sense. Yuumi, another amp unit getting buffed a lot. This can make amp reroll really strong. You can reroll Nefiri with the Yuumi on level like 6/7. We have like changes across the board. Doesn't seem like massive changes, but she does do a lot of AoE, and she does like the extra marks. It's like around like 10 to 15% across the board, right? A little bit less than 10% in some areas. I think that's strong. I think that's strong as shit. But you know, of course, I think that only works if you get to like that amp strategist board, but with reroll options. It could work in certain encounters where you get extra units. Let's see this 4-cost champs. Okay, so this is the compensation we wanted to see for Golden Ox. So I was saying before, I'm not sure exactly how Golden Ox is like why it's getting nerfed a little bit. It's because they're buffing the units. Look at this. A mana buff, 10 mana. That's 2 autos. That's so good. Number of Chakram autos goes from 6 to 8. That's insane. This is good. And then extra AD percentage, 3% on everything. That's like a what? That's like almost a 50% increase. 4%. It's like 7 to 4, 7 to 11. This is massive. This is a really big buff. Like this helps Aphelios a lot. Golden Ox versions as well as Marksman version might be extremely powerful. Let's see Cho'Gath. Cho'Gath. Yeah, a little bit. I don't know how Bruisers really work. Bruiser seems very specific. I think Cho'Gath suffers from being Bruiser, which is generally one of the worst of the frontline traits, like if you're trying to play around it as main tank. And then Boombot, which is like not particularly great unless you're playing specific boards, because it's not like a wide splash trait. It's hard to say how good this will be, but I don't think it makes him broken, right? It doesn't seem like that crazy of a... I mean, he gets more HP. Like, maybe he goes infinite. Who knows? I actually don't know. I don't know which way, if Cho is going to be, like, really good to play around or not. But there's some lines that you play. Like, I played Golden Ox, 6 Bruiser, Marksman, Aphelios carry, and I got, like, a 3rd in a really stacked lobby. Like, I used it as a tempo line because I had, like, worth the wait Darius or something. Like, he does work, even in the current patch. It's just, like, a little bit awkward as a unit. Vex buff. This I don't understand. This is not okay. I think Exotech Vex is gonna be the best comp, probably, right? Like, it's already fucking strong as shit. They buffed Morgana, which is a good blue buff holder. They buffed Vex. They buffed Gragas, which you usually play on the board. They didn't nerf the HP on Exotech. They didn't nerf Sejuani. right? Because Vex starts with a V, which means that Sejuani would have been on this page if they nerfed Sejuani. But they're buffing Vex. I think Vex with Exotech is going to be like a very, very, very strong comp. 180% overhealing conversion. Doesn't that also make it, if you get any augment that gives you Omnivam, like they're already really broken with Vex, this is just gonna be so strong. And then a 5A debuff to Xayah. If you guys don't know, there was a set in the previous, I bring this up every patch review, 5AD can make a unit from being the worst in the game to being the best in the game. I saw it firsthand a patch like many patches ago in a previous set, and ever since then I'm always scared because this is base AD and everything works off percentage AD. So if you change the base AD by 5, it actually multiplies so heavy into their late game damage. So like Xayah, Aphelios, marksmans, they nerfed Jarvan a little bit, but they didn't nerf anybody else. I don't know, this is hard to say, but we're definitely having shakeups, right? I definitely don't think it's gonna be hard for Zeri every game anymore, which is nice for someone like me who likes to play flex. I wish there was more AP changes, like no brand changes, no brand, no zigs. Like that line is so hard to fucking stabilize with. Like I want to see something. Maybe you just play brand into Street Demon. Oh, brand got nerfed? What the fuck? Oh no, this is a stray bullet for sure. This unit does nothing. Brand is, I was about to say, I think Brand's one of the worst 4 costs in the game right now, next to like Cho. But Cho's like a frontline unit. Holy. And then Annie buffs. Okay, Golden Ox is gonna be really strong. I'm actually scared. I don't like it when like the tempo comp is really strong, because it makes like you know, like when there's a lot of rerolls that are strong, the meta becomes really degenerate, that everybody's just playing reroll. The same thing happens in the opposite side. There has to be like a balance, but sometimes the meta becomes really degenerate because everybody's just saving to tempo, to fast 9, and to play like these like really high stakes comps. Like Golden Ox is looking really good, right? Like they just buffed the shit out of Aphelios, and they're buffing Annie. This actually works really well with Amp, because this is the mini fireballs, right? Doesn't she get more mini fire? Are these the same mini fireballs? Oh man, I don't know. Hold on. Are these the same mini fireballs? I need an Annie. I can find it here. Aren't these the ones? Mini fireballs. Yeah, she shoots more mini fireballs with Amp. That's like a huge change then. Because like what I'm trying to say is that, okay, let me explain, right? What I just looked up and why. This is 60. It goes from 60 to 68. That's like what, like 15% increase, or 15-ish% increase, right? Like you know, it's not that much, right? You can look at it and you could say it's not that much, but this is multiplied by Amp. So it's actually like not like it multiply. It does so much more damage if you play vertical Amp. So this is like a huge change to if you're trying to play around vertical Amp, which they already buffed vertical Amp on its high cap potential, and they buffed Golden Ox. So now you have like 2 options, especially around AP items. So like Annie's a blue buff holder usually. So now you have Vex that's really strong, and Annie is really strong. This might be like a sack and get blue buff kind of meta. Because like this guy, I don't think you want to play this. This doesn't look nice. But I guess they buff Street Demon. Maybe it's okay. But like, I don't know. Brand, like this unit is so hard to stabilize around. Okay, let's see the 5 cost. Aurora. So 2 cost Aurora is going to have way less spell damage. That makes sense. She kind of like nukes boards. And then the split spell damage is getting nerfed quite a bit. This makes Aurora a lot worse, but I think her utility is still good. But this might hurt Anima specifically. Anima and Dynamo lines where you really like are hoping to get bailed out by the Aurora. You know, that's a little bit awkward. 5 AD. I already think Samira is strong. Oh no. I think this Amp line is fucked. Oh my god, I think this Amp line is fucked. Oh my, that's crazy. I think Samira's already good. That's the thing. Street Demon and Amp got buffed. So like early Samira might be good here. She's just hard to fit in because you have to have her traits in. So you have to be already angling it. Man, high rolling a Samira when you're playing Amp or Street Demon now, like, is that not crazy? 5 AD? That's nuts. Okay, Urgot, mana buff, AD buff. I think Urgot's like a little bit awkward right now, but I think this is really strong. Maybe Urgot becomes less of like oh god, I hit an Urgot. Like, you know, like if you're playing birthday present, you hit an Urgot, you're like, oh great, what do I do here? Viego I think is broken, so I expect to see a lot of nerfs. Less healing, less spell damage, yes. Less splash damage, yes. It's not that much. It's like around like what, like 10% across the board, roughly speaking, right? I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. A little bit less healing though. They buffed all the other Golden Ox units, so like it makes sense. And I think Viego is one of the best 5 costs. These two, I think, were the best 5 costs in the game, and they both got nerfed. So I think that's really nice. I don't think Samira needed a buff, especially if you're buffing so many parts of the Amp kit and Street Demon. So this feels like a little bit out of place. And then Urgot, I think, was one of the worst of the 5 costs, just like a bit crept out. So, you know, it's hard to say. Let's see if there's any other changes. I saw a Kobuko change. I can't find it though. Oh, here we go. Kobuko reworked. So 1 AS. Now passive attacks deal bonus magic damage and 50% in a 1 hex radius if cyber boss. At 50% HP, trigger phase 2. Then enrage, getting 100% AS, 30 attack speed, and bonus damage by 30%. Okay, so the cyber boss is now put on this. Phase 2 is you gain a health shield, pick up a nearby enemy, knocking up all enemies for 1.5 seconds. Slam down, dealing bonus magic damage to the target and all enemies. Okay, so let me explain what I understand from this. I might be wrong in my understanding, so I'll try my best to explain what I'm thinking here. This seems like an overall Kobuko buff if you're playing around Kobuko, but it's like, it's arguable how strong he is now in like some of the other boards. So it's hard for me to say, but I think it's an overall buff. So his passive now basically just helps him to deal more damage. The Cyber Boss bonus used to be on his stun, but now the Cyber Boss bonus is on his passive of the extra hex radius on the attacks. So if you're playing around Kobuko and you have him with a lot of AP, he's actually going to melt frontline because he's going to have this extra radius if you have Cyber Boss active, which is insane and it's really good. However, if you're just playing a random Kobuko, you get the 2 hex radius even without playing Cyber Boss, which is actually pretty massive because then you can just splash him in and it'll always stun 2 hexes, which is really powerful. So that's your phase 2, right? Now the phase 2, from my understanding, it only happens once because you enter phase 2 and then you enrage for the rest of combat. So you only get 1 stun now, which is actually a big nerf because in the past, Kobuko would stun multiple times. It would be hard to do that, but if you're playing around with good Kobuko items, he can get 2 stuns off, and that's absolutely massive. Now it seems like you basically get 1 stun that's better all the time, but you don't get multiple. So I think that part of his kit is nerfed, but if you're playing around Kobuko, I think it's overall buff because his phase 2 and his phase 1 seems like it has such an insane cap potential of him just like going 1v9 and killing everything, right? Like the Omnivamp gain, you don't have to build him Omnivamp, you can build him with AP, frontline items. He just like, you know, Crown Guard on him, for example. He just like does a shit ton of magic damage. Bonus damage is increased as well. This unit seems like it might be broken if you're playing Cyber Boss, which just makes like the whole Cyber Boss line like more of like a viable option if you have that like type of opener to play around it. Okay, Augment Silver. So button mash, getting universally increased. I usually don't play the hero augment, so that's fine. Eye for an eye and Eye for an eye plus gives 1 less component. I think these are some of the strongest of the silver augments. We actually just talked about the silver augments before, and I think that's fine. So these ones nerfed, it makes sense. It just gives so much value for a silver augment. Glass Cannon and Rigged Shop. Rigged Shop I think is really strong if there are viable reroll options for 3 costs. I think it was really good into like Bruiser Fiddlesticks, for example. So I think this is fine. It just gives you less starting rerolls. So that's fine. I think its value still is there if you're playing towards those lines. And Glass Cannon. Glass Cannon was really I think this was one of the mistakes I made. I thought about it after I made the video yesterday. I know I made a video on silver augments yesterday. The only one that I think I didn't place in a spot that I was particularly happy with was glass cannon, because when I was making the video, I couldn't think of glass cannon units that I wanted to play around. However, glass cannon 1 as a silver gives so much value because it's like almost the exact same damage amp as like the gold one, right? Like it just gives you so much value. So it's actually really strong as a silver augment. So it makes sense that it's nerfed there, even though I didn't value it really high yesterday. I just forgot to make the comparison between glass cannon and the gold one. I was just ranking it based on like what I thought it did in that particular scenario, which was bad of me. Chug bug buffs, sure. I don't know. I guess it's not good. Overkill spread is a huge buff here, so like maybe chug bug's really good. A lot of times people play chug bug with bruisers. I don't know why. I thought chug bug you had to play with Divinicorp. So like I wouldn't be surprised if people started playing chug bug with Divinicorp and it was really broken. Maybe I'm wrong. I might be wrong, right? I don't know for sure. I tested in PBE and it felt like Divinicorp was just the way to go. You just get so many stats on the Gragas and you just like throw in 5 costs to cap out your board later. But I don't know. Right? I don't know. A lot of people play chug bug with bruiser and then it looks like shit all the time. And I'm like, I don't know why people don't play it with Divinicorp, but of course, I might just be unsure and unknowing, right? Crown's Will, sure. I don't know if it was broken. I think it's just good on certain units, so I don't think it needed to get nerfed, but it is what it is. Cut Purse. No longer appears on 2-1. Okay, that just makes it like the Rengar reroll worse. Like, you know, you don't get your Rengar early. Cyber Deck. I think this is the one that gives you the extra cyber items. So they're just nerfing it all together. I think that is not going to be an issue anymore because I think Exotech is a little bit worse for wear after the Hollow Bow changes. Glass Cannon 2. This is what I'll talk about, right? Glass Cannon 1 was like 15% and Glass Cannon 2 was 18%. So like Glass Cannon 1 as a silver was really powerful and Glass Cannon 2 as a gold was like not as good, so they buffed Glass Cannon 2 and they nerfed Glass Cannon 1. I should have mentioned that in yesterday's video. I'll probably mention it when I do the gold tier list, and I apologize for that. That was bad of me. I think that's the one thing that I can say without a doubt I was wrong in my assumptions and what I said, because I should have made that comparison, because that's a really important comparison to make. And it's actually really funny because I thought about it last night and I wanted to make a comment on my video about it, but then I was looking at this and it's like, wow, they changed it. Okay, so makes sense. Never mind. I just won't talk about it anymore because then people like, you know, I don't amend it. High score, later breakpoints increase. This is the one that made Cyberboss and Vigor reroll really broken. So this actually makes it a little bit less likely to hit your stuff. So I think that's fine. But you know, at the same time, I felt like that was the only condition to play Vigor reroll for me. So, Item Collector 2 nerf. I don't know why. Maybe it's too much. I'm not sure. I don't have enough play on that. Reinforcing Skeleture, sure. HP per death 55. Okay. I don't know enough about that one either to have an opinion either way. Sated Spellweaver, less Omnivamp, more max shield. This one's broken if you hit Vex. I still think it'll be broken if you hit Vex. But this augment is just generally really good. If you have a unit that can use the Omnivamp, then it becomes insanely strong. Because basically just giving your whole board extra survivability. But if you have like a unit like Vex that turns Omnivamp into true damage, then this becomes really broken. So I still think it's going to be broken. Spear's Will nerfed starting mana. I don't even think it was that crazy. Spirit Link only works on champions. It's a huge nerf, but it makes sense. Basically with Spirit Link, sometimes if you had dummies or golems or shit, like it would just be so annoying. So like, yeah, it makes sense. Trait Tracker only gives 5 emblems, I guess. I don't know. Trait Tracker is like the win con thing that with certain comps. Trial Run, bonus AD, HP and AD remove. This is the one where it gives you a golem and it scales up as well. Makes sense, but at the same time, I think that like the nerf to Hollow Bow makes Exo. Well, I guess Exo still has the HP, so maybe it's still going to be good. I don't know if Trial Run's going to be good anymore. Because without the golem doing a lot of work, it kind of makes it a little bit less. It might still be good. It'll still have a lot of HP, so who knows. Vampiric Vitality, less healing. Okay, sure. I don't have an opinion on that one. If you didn't like it, it got nerfed. Let's see some prismatic changes. Oh, there's no prismatic changes? Hold on. Oh, there is. I just skipped over it. Okay, augments Prismatic. Attack speed on coronation, so less attack speed, less AP. Yeah, okay, that's fine. I felt like it was really strong because it also gives you the fawn. Cybernetic uplink. This is like more of a generic you take all the time type of thing, so I don't like that they're nerfing it, but it's fine. Endless hordes. 20% HP reduction and 12% HP reduction. I tried endless hordes thinking that it would be good with Divinicorp, and it was really bad. So like I actually don't know if there's a particular line. In my head, endless hordes, if you have quality over quantity, is insane. You just take it instantly because you're limited to 1 item per unit. I'm not sure if it works really well with other boards because it's just so hard sometimes. I thought it'd be good with Divinicorp because you get so many stats from Divinicorp that it makes sense. Like your whole board's a threat and you just play a bunch of 5 costs. But when I played it, it really didn't feel good. So I'm reluctant to take this augment because it feels like you have to have an idea, like you have to have a strategy, and I haven't cooked up a strategy yet. You know what I mean? Like all the ones I can think of, like Anima Squad or Street Demon, or like all the things I can think of, or Divinicorp. Like I've tried them and they're not that good. So like I need to think about it a little bit more. Future Sight, dummies no longer gain HP. I think that's fine. Future Sight's really good, especially if you're playing in like higher elos where you can actually make really good use of the dummies and like sway the fights in certain ways. The dummies no longer getting HP makes it so that now you don't get like an extra tanky item and you just have to worry about the value. Hall of Mirrors, I think it was bugged. It was like pretty bugged on a lot of units. It pretty much only worked with like bruisers or some shit. Like a lot of units just didn't gain their abilities and traits and stuff. So now it's disabled. That makes sense. Just like get rid of it until it works properly. It should have been disabled already in my opinion, because like if you don't know that it didn't work from just hearing it from somebody else, you're just actively griefing your game. So yeah, get rid of it. Lucky Gloves no longer gives a 3rd glove later. I think that's a huge nerf because usually with Lucky Gloves you want to have at least 2 Thieves Gloves to get value off of it as a rule of thumb, and the Lucky Gloves Plus now only gives 2 gloves. I don't like this. I really like Lucky Gloves as like a general, like just take it and it's like generically good. This actually makes it a lot worse, which is actually kind of awkward now. Because Lucky Gloves, like it's already like, you already don't want to take it early game. It's already not that good in stage 2 relative to other Prismatics because of what it gives you. And now it's like worse and worse. Like, I don't know. And then subscription service gives you 8 gold per stage. It actually makes subscription service a little bit better. I like subscription service if I'm playing around like those comps they use like every 4 cost, like a strategist board. So that's pretty cool. Okay, let's see some bug fixes. Last time I did a patch review, they fixed the bug that I was looking at. Let's see if there's any bugs. Oh, the hollow bow they already talked about. That was the only bug I thought I knew about. Okay, so fix the bug on Golden Ox. Next bonus being incorrect. Okay, sure. Fix the bug on Scapegoat to incorrectly saying it'll grant 1 gold immediately. It actually grants 4. Okay, cool. Hollow bow reworded. Sure. Bulky Bites will no longer update in combat if a unit is summoned during combat, like from Aurora. I didn't know this happened, but that's a cool bug fix. Good job, devs. Fix a bug with Thorn-plated armor that wasn't scaling correctly in stage 5+. Okay, sure. Fix a bug where emblems can show up on stage 5+ carousel when they shouldn't. Okay, I guess. Bruiser Circlet now correctly gains a giant belt. Okay, I didn't know about that. Fix a bug where Twisted Fate would not throw enough cards if there was less targets than expected. I don't know. Sure. Anger issues no longer transform radio. Oh, that would be really funny. That's really sad if that happened to somebody. Brink of Dawn properly heals the holder. Okay. Brink of Dawn. I guess that's, I think this is like Radiant Edge at night or something. Fixed an issue where Misfortune would aim at questionable places during the start of, and then it's covered by Mortdog's Cam, which I covered with a black box. Sure. Executioner Circlet re-enabled now grants effects. Ooh, this one's scary. The Vex seems really strong right now, so like, you know, we'll see how that plays out. I think that's it though. Unless there's more bug fixes. Okay, I think that's it. General opinion of the patch. I think it's a really good direction. I think it's really good changes. I kind of like a lot of the changes. I'm on board with everything. There's some that I don't understand. Like the brand change, I think is the only one where I'm like, I don't get that one. But I think like, you know, they're adding a bunch of base stats so it can make sense in some worlds. But the Vex changes as well. I don't understand why she's getting buffed. I think Vex is like one of the really good high cap comps that played around Exotech but didn't use Hollow Bow. And they didn't really touch Exotech. They just touched Hollow Bow, which is like the big offender. But I feel like Vex is still going to be like ridiculous if it's not B-patched. Other than that, Golden Ox seems crazy. Anima seems more stable. Strategist Amp, or just Amp in general, different variations of it seem kind of nuts. So I would be very careful around that comp. Like, I think that's going to be maybe one of the best comps in the game. But all to say, there should be a lot more variety in the comps. I would have liked to see like maybe like a Zed Slayer, like Divinicorp Zed line be a little bit adjusted in some way to make it a little bit stronger. But like that, maybe that's asking a lot. I'm excited for next patch. I think this is fun. If you're somebody who was like fed up of just seeing a bunch of Zeri's, I didn't really care too much because I just played Zeri when I could play Zeri, and then I played like all sorts of crazy shit if I couldn't. But you know, hopefully this was fun. Hopefully it was informative. And yeah, check it out. We're gonna go through the best comps closer to the date of. So on the actual patch day, I'll have a video talking about what I think the best comps are once I have a little bit of a basis in playing a couple games and seeing how it plays out. Thanks for watching. Have a great day and see ya. Bye-bye.